Colorado wants to tax pets, including fish and ant farms.
That's absurd.
Well, I tell you, yeah, they need to, in that case, they need to tax termites that are invading people's homes. They need to tax bed bugs. They certainly need to tax roaches and mosquitoes because clearly people who have a roach-infested house have such because of their housekeeping skills or lack thereof. So they need to be taxed for that. That must be considered a pet, and it is every bit as much a pet as a cat running around the house. Certainly as much as a cat, and certainly as much as a mouse or a rat. I think, in point of fact, what this really is all about is taxing, that is to say, controlling our relationship to the natural world. Now, if you think about this for more than 1 millisecond, you will realize that government has no appropriate role at all in the relationship between human beings and the natural world. That is not their ballywhack. Their ballywhack is not to protect nature from human intrusion. That's a perversion of the role of government. And by doing so, they are being not simply tyrannical, but they are assuming a role that they can only assume by virtue of not allowing the practice of religion as a function of natural human interaction. Now, follow me on this. The role of man in nature is how shall I say it? I can say God-given. There are some of you too stupid to understand what that means. So I will say it another way. The role of man in nature is fundamental. There is no other role that is more integral to the reality of a human being living on the earth than the relationship of that human being to the natural world. So there is, in fact, nothing other than the imposition of other human beings to try to stand between the natural world and other human beings and somehow be an arbiter of what that relationship ought to be. Breathing, for example. Collecting rainwater, for example. Keeping pets, for example. Digging in the ground. On and on and on and on. Government has no role whatsoever from a natural standpoint, from a natural position in the relationship between human beings and the natural world. That is not an appropriate venue for government involvement or government activity. Government is to govern the relationship human to human, if you will, from a social perspective, not to govern the relationship of humans to trees and grass and air and water, the natural environment. And this is all part of that. This is simply a way to inject some kind of authoritarian structure between human beings and the natural world. As such, it is a violation of the essential natural creator relationship between, if you will, between God and his creations. It's an attempt by government to literally play God and to be God. And as such, it must be overthrown because it is fundamentally demonic. Demonic being that which violates the fundamental relationship between man and nature, between man and creation, between man and God.